Hello everybody, today I'm going to continue with the pair of pants that I'm making. I have done my balanced dart here and now I'm going to go ahead and draw on my welt pocket. It's going to be 6.75 centimeters down from the top and it's going to be 1.5 centimeters wide, and for my width it's going to be 5 centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those on both of my pieces and then we can go ahead and sew the welt pocket. I'm going to go ahead and mark it on the side, on the right side of the pair of pants here. And I'm going to use chalk to go ahead and mark it on there. So I'm going to measure down from the middle of my dart. I'm going to measure down 6.75 centimeters. Alright, so it's going to be 12.5 centimeters wide is what I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and go out 6 1/4 on either side. And on this bottom, I'm going to go ahead and go down 1.5 centimeters. Alright, so now I have my welt pocket drawn out. Alright, now that I have both of my welt pockets drawn out, we can go ahead and get started. So I've cut out already my welt pieces, my top piece and my bottom piece, and 2 for this one as well. These pieces are 19 by 8 centimeters wide. I'm going to use pins to mark my welt on the other side as well, and the top and the bottom of my welt. Now on this side I can go ahead and draw that line. It's going to be in the center. Alright, so I'm going to start by attaching my lining to my pant piece where I have that line going. I also want to make sure that my lining is centered on here. So my lining is 20 and a little bit, so it's going to be about 10 and a little bit less than 10 1/2. Alright, so that is where my lining needs to go. Marking the sides here. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and sew the lining down. This is just temporary to hold the lining in place. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same with the other side. So this is what our welt looks like on one side. I've got the lining sewn down here. Hello everyone, so I'm back with my welt pocket that I'm still working on. So I've got my piece, I've ironed it twice on one of the pieces, and I've ironed it folding over once on one of the pieces. We're going to take our 2 pieces that we have here. I'm going to go ahead and serge all 4 sides of this piece. I serged the bottom side already, but I'm going to serge the other sides on here. And then I have my second piece that we folded twice over the width of our pocket here. Alright, so the first step is going to be to take this bottom piece, that's the one that is folded over twice. I'm going to unfold it, and we're going to line up that first line with this bottom line here. I'm going to make sure that it is center, so this piece measures just a tiny bit less than 20 centimeters. So I'm going to take the 10 and I'm going to put it right in the middle of that dart, because that dart should be the middle of my pants here. So now I've got a line of lining, pants, and this that's going to go placed on top. I'm going to pin it down right there. I have that crease right where my line is going. Okay, so I'm going to pin it down where that line is going. That way when I go ahead to sew over it, it is right where I need it to be. And here on this last one, I'm going to make sure that I put my pin right at the very end of where I want my pocket to be. So that's where I'm going to stop with my needle on my sewing machine. Let's do this next side. Again, I'm just lining up this crease that I have with my chalk line of where I want my pocket to sit. And this last pin I'm going to put right at the edge of that line here. Alright, so now I'm going to sew my 3 layers together, my lining, pants, and this one. I'm going to stop right at my needle and then I'm going to back stitch again. Alright, now we can go ahead and take this out. And I'm going to go ahead and clip my threads here. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, but instead of with that bottom piece here, we're going to do it with this top chalk line that we have here. Okay, and we're going to use this top piece that we did all 4 corners on. Okay, we're going to have it flipped around this direction, but we're just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to use this as a marker to match up this one here for my center. Alright, and I'm just going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and mark where my crease is at with my chalk line. So I'm just going along and making crease and chalk line and pinning it. Here at the end I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the side. Where my welt pocket needs to end, I'm going to put a pin in it. Alright. Do the same thing on the other side. It's always good to go from the center out if you have something that's symmetrical. That way you don't end up with pulling all the fabric to one side. If you end up pulling the fabric, it pulls from the center and it pulls out evenly from one side and to the other side. My last pin, I'm just going to mark where I want my pocket to end. And since you already have this one sewn down, you can use it as a bit of a guide as to where the next one needs to end, because really you want these two to match up as best you can. Clip all of our threads to keep it nice and neat. Alright, so this is what I look like so far. I've got this flap coming up, this one here. I'm going to take my pins out now. Alright, the next step is to fold these 2 flaps back, and we're going to cut down along this line, and we're going to cut 2 triangles here, making sure not to cut our stitching anywhere, okay? You can use a pair of scissors. I like to use a razor blade, but be careful because you can cut yourself like I do. Don't forget your triangles. Try and cut as close as you can to your stitching, but without cutting. Okay. Alright, so now we have that cut, and we're going to go ahead and pop these pieces through to the other side. That's the first one. And now popping that top piece through to the other side. So now we kind of look like we have a welt pocket. Alright, now I'm going to flip over here to this back side. So we have our lining going all the way down here. This piece has that fold that we have from earlier. And this piece is going to fold upwards like that for now. So what we want to do now is, so this piece here has that second fold on it, so that's why it's sitting nicely folded down, and this one, for example, is not. So this one has that nice fold. That is our welt pocket, okay? that is what we're gonna see. That's this piece right here sticking up. Okay, that's that pretty decoration that we have. So since we have it like that already, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure it's nice and folded down. We're gonna pull this back and pull back this edge that's been sewn. Okay. And keeping that crease that we have on this side, we're going to pull these two pieces together. So keeping this crease here, okay, so that we have our nice welt. We're going to pull these two pieces and we're going to take it to our sewing machine. Okay, so you can see I'm going to fold this back, and what I'm going to sew is these two pieces together. You can kind of adjust it as you're here. Okay, so what you want to do is make sure that you are sewing on this line. You're just going to sew on top of it. Alright, as we get to here, this is what I want to show you, is that we don't want to go on top of this lining piece. We just want to be really close to it, but not on top of it. Back stitch. Okay. We can take it out, clip our threads. Alright, so see, I have gone across it, but I did not catch it, so it's right there. And on this side, on the starting side, exactly the same. You don't want to catch it, we just want to sew that nicely down. So now this is our nice welt with our crease that we had from before. Here we have again this front side. Now that crease is nicely folded down, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to put these triangles that we see here. We're going to put them on the inside. On this one, it was already there. We're going to pull back that pant layer. On this side, we're going to keep this one up at the top, okay? So we know it's up at the top because when we pull open, we can see through to the other side. So up at the top, that one. And we're just going to sew without catching this piece, okay? So if you want, you can go ahead and pin it back, for example, so that you don't catch it. Without catching that, we're going to sew this corner down, okay? So it's going to be lining the corner and this piece with the welt on it. So I did not catch the pants on either top or the front, and I had that top piece pinned down so I wouldn't catch that either. Okay, so you don't want to catch that top piece when you do the sewing either, because this top piece is eventually going to be down like that, and if we caught it, then it wouldn't unfold perfectly, okay? So have that in mind as you're doing this. Now we're going to go ahead and do the other side. After doing that, we're going to go ahead back to this front side. So I've got my top piece and my bottom piece. We are going to go ahead and sew this piece down to our lining. So I'm just going to pick this up, okay, keep this out of the way, and here we go again. So I have my only layers are my lining and that piece there. Don't need to catch anything else in this line of sewing. And we're just going to pull it because it is already attached. So we should just be able to pull it all the way to the end, back stitch. We have our lining. We have our top piece that's up here. We have our bottom piece with our nice welt here. This is connected to our lining. What we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to pull our lining up, okay? And this piece is going to get pulled down. So that's why we need to watch out earlier, because on the inside, if we ever have that like a little gap that's there. What we want to see is not the lining through the gap, but we would like to see this piece of fabric. So this piece of fabric is going to go down, okay? And this piece of lining is going to come up. Unfortunately, I did not buy enough lining piece. So when I went to go make my pattern, it ended up being shorter. Which, you know, I just gonna work with what I have. So I'm going to end up putting this lining piece here, but ideally, so that way, you know, I have room in my pocket for my hand, because otherwise I would not. Ideally, this would be longer, and you would pull it all the way up to the top. Okay, so that you have like the nice enclosed pocket, and it looks very nice on the inside of your pants. So have that in mind when you're doing that. But if not, that's okay. We can always work with what we've got. I'm just going to go ahead and pin this up here with these pieces that I've got. All right, so this piece is here. Now what we want to do is sew, this is that top piece here, okay? We want to sew it to the lining here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my pants around. Okay, I flip my pants around. Now we can flip this up, for example. So on the side, I just have my lining. And we're just gonna go ahead and attach this piece, I don't know if you can see that well, this piece to this back lining piece. So I'm going to put it in here, put my press foot down, my needle down, and we're just going to go ahead and attach this here. We're just going to go ahead pulling this back as we go along. Okay. So now this lining piece is connected to this piece. Okay, so when we stick our hand inside of our welt pocket, we have an actual pocket. I'm going to go ahead and serge the sides of my pockets. With all of my pieces together, I'm going to go from this side down to the bottom. That way it ends up nice and even and flat. And then I will come back and sew along here. Alright, so now my pocket is like technically finished. But I am going to go ahead and sew these pieces together with a straight stitch. Obviously my piece was not cut out very well when I did it because this measures 16 inches on both sides, but this one is all the way up here and this one is all the way down there. I'm going to make sure that I have my pants back. That's my dart here. Have that back. And I'm just going to sew a line. Alright, I think we are finished. Okay. So here's my front of my welt pocket. It looks pretty good if I do say so myself. That piece going up in there. Stick my hand in it. I have my pocket. On the inside, it could look a little nicer if I had that lining going all the way up towards that waistband there. But other than that, I think it looks pretty damn good. Alright, there we go. My welt pocket